But that first step would be a severe one, for the Broncos' record-breaking preseason had taken a heavy toll of personnel. No fewer than 4 other regulars were sidelined, and against the powerful Los Angeles Rams, those casualties proved decisive as the Broncos fell 17-10. The following week brought the world champion Pittsburgh Steelers to Mile High Stadium for a game unrivaled in terms of sheer explosiveness. The Broncos started it all off with a game-opening onside kick and went on to a stunning 21-point first-quarter lead. Yet 21 points was merely a prelude to this marathon of games, a mega game in which 70 points were scored and the NFL's first regular season overtime enacted. But as a tie, it was a game without a victor, and coupled with a Washington loss, it left the Bronco players and fans with a great deal to learn about the world of contention. The Kansas City Chiefs were the Broncos' 4th opponent, and with the disillusionment of September behind them, the Broncos resolved to make October a month of victory. The Chiefs led 14-3 at the half, but then the Bronco defense rose to devastate their attempt. With the defense surging into control, the offense shook off its inertia and began to roll. Twice, the offense, sparked by substituting quarterback Steve Ramsey, embarked on scoring drives. And indeed, October had begun with Denver's first victory ever in Kansas City. The Broncos next warmed up for the New Orleans Saints, and Steve Ramsey was called upon for his first start as Charlie Johnson had joined the growing list of injured. The 5th-year pro responded with poise to his pressured assignment, and on his opening drive, threw 6 for 6 to the Saints' 3-yard line. Ramsey completed his series with a handoff to Otis Armstrong, and the Big Orange were on their way to victory number 2. It was a confidence-boosting afternoon for Ramsey as he threw 2 touchdowns and accumulated 295 yards passing. But he saved his most impressive pass for last, and it was a picture of precision. By the time Billy Van Heusen strode into the Saints' end zone, the Broncos had themselves a 33-point afternoon and sole possession of second place in the AFC West. With 2 victories, the Broncos were now gathering the momentum of success. However, their next opponents were the dangerously explosive San Diego Chargers. But any self-doubt that existed soon dissolved as the Denver offense surged to a new level of proficiency. With Charlie Johnson back in the lineup, the Broncos moved through San Diego territory for 354 yards of total offense and 3 touchdowns. And when Jim Turner kicked the final 3 points, the Broncos were at last in possession of the winning edge. The following week, the Broncos met the Cleveland Browns, and with hearts determined for a record consecutive victory number 4, they dominated the Browns in every facet of play. After Otis Armstrong had weaved his way to a third-quarter touchdown, there was, in fact, little doubt that Denver would record yet another triumph. But with a 21-9 lead holding into the 4th quarter, the Broncos lost both a game and a season during the most improbable final minutes I've ever broadcast.
Now 1st and goal at the 8-yard line. Holden very wide to the right side. Pruitt and McInnes in the backfield. Denver leading 21-9. Sight back, being chased, runs up with a football, gets to about the 1 and vaults into the end zone for the touchdown. 5 minutes, 27 seconds left. And the score now, Denver 21, the Cleveland Browns 16. Van Heusen standing back at about the 16-yard line. Kicks it deep. Pruitt 25-yard line. Gets a block coming to his left across the 30-yard line. Gets to the 40. Gets to the 50. Gets by Keyword. Comes to the Denver 30. He gets to the 20-yard line. Goes to the 10, to the 5, and is dragged down at the 3-yard line by Billy Van Heusen.
Well, I just sit here amazed and mystified that the Broncos will be behind and I just cannot believe that the Broncos are this close to being behind at this point in the ball game. The Cleveland team has just not played that well.
3rd and goal. Sipe dives for it. Is knocked back, rolls to his right, and he'll score. And they will have pulled this one out, 23-21. A very, very costly loss for the Broncos and any title hopes in the Western Division. That's it. 3 seconds to go.
Bone-jarring defense has always been a Denver hallmark, but in 1974, inconsistency against the pass undermined the aspirations of the season. Nevertheless, the youthful Bronco Team D was a proud and cohesive unit. They were brutally effective against the run. However, the critical absence of tackle Paul Smith impaired the pass rush, and the secondary came under season-long fight. But owing to defensive personnel such as number 48, John Pitts, there were fewer TD passes completed in '74 than any prior year. The most inspirational member of the secondary was cornerback number 26, Calvin Jones. At 5'7", what Jones gives away in height, he more than compensates for in speed and an uncanny jumping ability. 5 times, Jones' leaps led to interceptions, as the second-year man completed another highly respected NFL season. But the man most deserving of praise in the Broncos secondary was number 36, safety Bill Thompson. During the season past, Thompson intercepted 5 aerials and returned them for a total of 105 yards and 1 memorable touchdown against the New Orleans Saints. Considered by many to be the top-flight strong safety in the game, Bill Thompson has that intuitive ability to always be near the football. In the defensive line, number 77, Lyle Alzado, rated out as the Broncos' most effective performer. At 6'3" and 265, he has both size and extraordinary speed. But Alzado is not only big and fast, he also is one of the strongest men in the NFL, and it all makes for havoc in the opponent's backfield. But sacks were not Alzado's only concern, and often his inspirational desire carried him far from the line of scrimmage. At the opposite end of the line was defensive end number 79, Barney Chase. Having started all 14 games as a rookie, in his second season, Chavis increased both his range and quickness. As an eminently coachable player, his strength and mobility make Barney Chavis an important building block in the future improvement of the Bronco front four. The signal caller for the defense was number 56, linebacker Ray May. Since coming to the Broncos 2 seasons ago, May has contributed a great deal to Team Bronco morale, and in his 8th season was a highly reliable performer. most promising member of the defensive unit was number 57, Tom Jackson. John Ralston said he'd rather have Jackson than any linebacker in the business, and number 57 has only been in the business for 2 years. His secret is simple, however. He just loves to hit. But Tom Jackson was not just a hitter. He's a fine athlete who can play the pass as well as the run. But as well as Tom Jackson and others did in the '74 season, it did not make for team success, and the task remains to turn individual highlights into all-around consistency. In the 10th week of the season, the AFC West was in the unchallengeable grasp of the Oakland Raiders. Denver had fallen short of the playoffs in its first season of contention. But John Ralston and the men of the Broncos rose above that bitter disappointment by rededicating themselves to another goal, the goal of a winning season. Dramatically, the offense came pulsing to life with a 532-yard Monday night effort. 6 days later, the arch nemesis Oakland Raiders were the opponents, and the Broncos ripped them up with a record-breaking ground attack. Otis Armstrong stepped off 146 yards of Raider real estate, and teammate number 32, John Keyworth, rolled for 148 more and the game's first score. Against one of the most revered defenses in the league, the Broncos surged for 410 yards of offense, and Steve Ramsey to Jerry Simmons made it 20-10. By afternoon's end, the Broncos had drawn a sweet measure of revenge as they snapped the Raiders' 9-game winning streak and could once again revel in the jubilation of victory. To conclude a torturous 3-game schedule in just 11 days, the following Thursday, the Denver Broncos traveled to Detroit's Tiger Stadium for a snow-clad Thanksgiving Day contest with the playoff hopeful Lions. As the second quarter ended, they trailed 17-10. But a daring second-half kickoff turned the whole thing around. Number 22, Fran Lynch, recovered, and the Broncos were in business at midfield. Moments later, number 24, Otis Armstrong, took in a deceptive draw and bolted 31 yards to put his team on the Detroit 3-yard line. From there, John Keyworth smashed over for the tying score, which triggered a 21-point third-quarter avalanche of Denver offense. And as Jim Turner kicked the final point, a national television audience of 35 million had witnessed the Broncos take a long stride toward a winning season. With the Bronco offense at full throttle, they next faced the rugged defense of the Houston Oilers, and Denver tore them up. For the third time in 4 games, the offense exploded for more than 400 yards, 183 of which came from the sprints of Otis Armstrong. At game's end, the 37-14 victory ensured Denver of a winning record. Their stretch goal was realized, and their season of contention proudly salvaged. The offense's explosiveness can largely be credited to an outstanding interior line comprised of center Bobby Maples, guards Paul Howard, Tom Lyons, and tackles Mike Current, Marv Montgomery, and Claudie Miner. The Bronco offensive linemen at times took their assignments from Steve Ramsey. But Charlie Johnson was the venerable old pro who generaled the offense's attack in '74. And as he demonstrated throughout the season, the 14-year veteran still ranks high among the most effective quarterbacks in the game. And at the other end of the passing game were a fine core of talented receivers, such as number 80, Jerry Simmons, who filled in at wide receiver and scored 2 important touchdowns. But as capably as Simmons played in relief, it was always difficult to replace the person of Haven Moses, who once again was a conference-ranking receiver with over 500 yards of hard-earned receptions. Starting with Haven Moses and adding depth and versatility to wide receiver was number 42, Billy Van Heusen. Despite chronic knee problems, Van Heusen averaged an astonishing 26.3 yards per catch in '74, while reaching opponents' end zones 4 times, and all that on just 16 catches. Amounting to 2 men on other rosters, Van Heusen, the punter, was highly regarded for both his accuracy and distance. But the man most deserving of praise was Denver's leading receiver, All-Pro tight end Riley Odoms. At 6'4" and 230, number 88 has the size and pass-catching ability to cause pandemonium in any defensive backfield. In 1974, Odoms used his assets to gather 42 passes and score 6 touchdowns. Number 88 finished the season as the top pass-catching tight end in the National Football League. And for the second time in but 3 years of play, Riley Odoms was awarded All-AFC status. In the offensive backfield, rookie number 32, John Keyworth, was a significant factor in Denver's rushing resurgence. At 6'3", 230 pounds, the University of Colorado product gave the Broncos a bulldozing style of attack not seen since the days of Cookie Gilchrist. In addition to his blocking and running ability, Keyworth pried open goal line defenses 10 times in '74 to wind up a star-destined debut. A review of the Denver offense could not be complete without mention of its most legendary figure, team tri-captain Floyd Little. And although '74 was not a year of high personal achievement for Little, the 10th-ranked active runner in the NFL contributed over 800 yards of offense to the Bronco campaign, and moreover lent his steadying influence to a youthful backfield. Little did find time to add yet another record to his credit, and that was the 3rd longest non-scoring play in Denver history. Floyd's catch and carry covered 72 yards, and once again in '74, the sign proved right as ever. At length, the success of 1974 must rest with the man most responsible for its design and execution. During his 3-year supervision, the Broncos have dramatically risen in stature throughout the NFL. And the primary reason for that is the genuine enthusiasm and optimism John Ralston carries to his team. Perhaps Ralston's most important asset is that he has never lost contact with the emotions of the game. And whether it's the midfield huddle or the opponent's end zone, the Denver Broncos have a coach whose inspirational style will positively continue their success. The greatest success of the 1974 season was the achievement of Otis Armstrong. Playing in the shadow of Floyd Little in '73, number 24 as a rookie carried 26 times for a meager 90 yards. But at the start of '74, Armstrong got his chance, and defenders have been shaking their heads ever since. At 5'10", 195, Armstrong combined a low profile with darting quickness to make him a draw player without peer. And while Armstrong made the Denver draw deadly, his pure running ability was always a thing of astonishment. As the year progressed, Otis Armstrong continued to slash his way to fame, and at season's end, he stood directly behind Jim Taylor, Jim Brown, Jim Nance, and O.J. Simpson for the most yards ever gained in one season. He joined that elite class of runners by amassing 1,407 rushing yards. And in doing so, Otis Armstrong became the fifth back in the history of professional football to average better than 100 yards per game for the season. But the NFL rushing championship that Otis Armstrong won in 1974 is in many ways more than an award to an individual player. It is, moreover, the product of a team realizing its potential as it journeys to become a champion. At season end, the Broncos stood as one of 10 winning teams in the NFL. In 1975, the lessons learned from their first year of contention should make their goal as champions a reality.